So welcome back to leanRAQA today. Today I'm here with my friend Adam from Ryden Solutions. Adam and I have been talking over the past several months. We're both kind of startup, small, focus on, helping customers find the right solutions. And we came to that point out of like different passion projects and pain points for us. You guys know my story about why I named the business Lean to try to right size quality and regulatory solutions. That's my passion. I didn't see a whole lot of sense coming out of consultants that I was using in industry. And Adam and I just started exchanging some stories. So, Adam, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and then we'll talk a little bit about Ryden and just our experiences in industry here.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Michelle. I'm really glad to be here and talk today. Yeah, a little bit about me. Similar story to you, Michelle. So, very quality focused throughout my career. Been in the medical device world for too long now, 17 years.
I know it's
Design
not to date
engineering.
yourself, huh?
Yes, I know. I gotta try to hide all the grays.
Mhm.
Uh, been very lean, Six Sigma focused throughout my career as well, whether it was in design, manufacturing, quality, or compliance. And the last 3 years, I've been the head of quality, compliance, cybersecurity for a diagnostic AI startup, and really trying to find ways to be a lean, team of one for a while there. And use as many tools as I can, and consultants where I can, and came up with the idea of Ryden to actually help me in my prior role, and actually kind of grew from there into its own business. So, Ryden Solutions, we are the first proactive continuous gap analysis platform for MedTech life science manufacturers. So we work with companies' QMS documents, pre-market submission design control documents, et cetera, and we'll analyze regulations, FDA, EU, et cetera, and highlight opportunities for improvement, often before you even know to ask for them. So,
Mhm. So what were some of those pain points in your prior role that kind of led to this mission of, helping you help yourself? It sounds like it started.
yes, uh, good question. So there's just so many different regulatory requirements that apply to medical device companies, regardless of what size you are, So we were commercializing in 3 jurisdictions and had over 200, I think it was 225 different regulatory requirements I had to implement and ensure control over by myself. It's just too much. There's just too many things changing, too many new guidances, especially in the AI in medical devices, SAMD world. There's just so many guidances coming out like every month,
Mhm.
every other month, that having a system that would just do the delta for me and tell me for everything I have in place, how compliant am I to the new guidance, so I can focus my effort on implementing fixes, ensuring I'm compliant rather than doing all the gap analysis time.
Mhm. Okay. And that was the experience you had at your kind of startup diagnostic AI space.
Correct.
What was your experience like earlier in your career when you were working at kind of a little bit larger companies?
Yeah, I've worked for, Fortune 1000 other medical device companies as well. And there was one role I had was a regional director of quality and compliance, had it's like 7 different manufacturing facilities that reported through me, and I supported, helped with compliance like EU MDR transition, but also cost of quality improvements like warranty and scrap and those types of things too. And realized that talking with peers, this is such a small industry, all the quality and compliance people, like everyone knows everyone, and
Yeah.
like so talking through like a solution like Ryden, where it'll help identify your issues proactively, noticed that the larger organizations have similar challenges, but slightly different. Like if you're a regional director and you have multiple sites reporting to you, well, I often struggled with knowing how to best coach and mentor those facilities. Like,
Mhm.
are the facilities having unique challenges and I need to do more like one-on-one coaching and tailoring and training? Or are they having systemic issues across all the sites where maybe I want to implement a software solution or do something at more of a systemic corporate
Global.
enterprise
Yeah.
level,
Yeah.
so but until you really have those insights, you can't really
Right.
make a strategic plan, which is where something like Ryden could
And I see, companies that have multiple facilities, many of them came in through some sort of acquisition, or they may make different types of products from the other facilities. So the quality management system is not always the same. It's not always standardized. So from facility to facility, they may have a total different way that they're doing management review or internal audits instead of like, everybody kind of being on the same page for the things they can. So
yeah.
now without, a tool to help you with the gap analysis, now you could be doing every time there was a regulation change, you could be looking across have to update 7 different quality systems in your case. In my case, I was managing one here in Tucson, two in different places in Mexico. So not only did I have to navigate 3 different facilities, I had to navigate 2 languages in
Hmm.
those facilities as
Yeah.
well. So that was super fun because regulatory requirements translate so easily into other languages, right?
Yes. But it's like,
Yeah.
I've seen like where some large, as you're acquiring more facilities, it's how the merger and acquisition process is so different for each company. I've seen some that like don't touch it at all. They leave the entire QMS how it was, leave it on their old EQMS system, and then others where they actually force the company to go to the corporate EQMS system and stuff. And it's pretty wide range. But
Right.
having a system that like can assess how you're doing and present like even multiple languages and then showing you where your strengths and weaknesses are. I don't know, it's pretty cool. But
Yeah. Um, so I think, another area where in our careers we had a lot of sticking points was managing audits. For me, one of my last jobs in industry, I was at a contract manufacturer that serviced like some of the like, biggest, names, was supplying them with gastrointestinal tubes. But
mhm.
we here in Tucson, especially, kind of in the winter months, we would get audited sometimes every week
Oh my
for
gosh.
like 3 or 4 months straight because all our customers who were up north in the frozen tundras were trying to get out and come see us. So we just called it open season for audits. So we had we would have I think we had over 30 audits a year at time, like, and they were largely packed into a 3 to 4 month window. Um,
Uh, that's
so we had, and then on top of that, we had the ISO audit, so the notified body, and we had FDA come in while I was there. So yeah, we were a well-oiled audit machine, but
yeah. I mean, you get a lot of like burnout from people that have to do that many audits, and it a lot of knowledge transfer loss if there's anyone that leaves. It's like it's really difficult to have to handle that many audits. So like I feel like having a system that actually does a trace matrix of your documents versus regulatory clauses and having a full gap analysis that's like ready to share with your suppliers as a contract manufacturer, could be helpful. And maybe even you could jointly reduce the audit scope, or at least the on-site part portion of the audit, like
mhm,
focus on things like I've seen like too many supplier audits where it's just everyone locks themselves in a conference room and basically it's a regurgitation of the ISO 13485 audit that you're
Oh
already
yeah, because
getting,
because it's
you're already
classic.
getting
Because
certified
they're going to
to
tell
do it.
you everything is proprietary because it's
Yeah.
somebody, it's another customer or not your product or
Yeah.
but yeah.
So,
So
so it's like if there was, I don't know, that's why like with Ryden, I'm really trying to focus on making those audits value added, like there's intention and why they're in the regulation to begin with, which is like focus on interviewing people and going to the shop floor and things of that nature. And don't spend that much time in conference rooms going
right,
through every single EU MDR clause to make sure it's in there when there are systems out there like a Ryden or whatever that can do that entire assessment for
right,
you in the background, and then so you could really focus on the product impacting safety, patient impacting things.
right. Yeah, no, all that's great points because we've got the QMSR transition coming up. I mean, we're, it's
Yes.
February 2nd, 2026, it's right around the corner. And the FDA has not published our new inspection guide. I really feel like they're going to adopt something very similar to MDSAP and the task model. But to me, we're losing so much value, to your point of focus on the things that actually make a difference in your quality, not locked in a conference room, reading procedures and just trying to check boxes. Because especially as MDR has come, further into, I'm going to use the term maturity loosely,
Sure.
but like anyway, still hot mess. Um, I don't like the notified bodies, like it's very checkbox oriented. And it's very, does your procedure say almost exactly this? They spend more of their time auditing your procedures now than auditing actual objective evidence and the way that both the MDSAP and the notified body checklist work, to me, don't make a good system and, trace, if you would,
Yeah.
you know, from the CAPA into the complaint back to the design. And, you can follow a former FDA inspection, like warning letter or something, and see how using the quality system inspection technique that they've been using for, since 1996, I believe, is that it was very much more systematic oriented. Like there was this question flow chart that you should ask, gather your evidence and your answers, and then
Yeah.
take that evidence at a particular stopping point, go into, say, design controls, see if what you saw in this part of the inspection fed into that other system. If it did or did not, then did it go back to risk management, say?
Yes.
Um, and so it was just, I felt like a much more meaningful version of way to audit. And so like I totally get what you're saying. Like the value of an audit is to be on a manufacturing floor, to look at device history records, to look at maintenance records, and you know, like, okay, great, your procedures say all the right things, but your procedure saying the right things does not ensure product quality.
Yes. Yes. No, I agree. I'm very interested to see. I have not really read much either about what the replacement to QSIT is going to be, and I'm very interested to see how they design the QSIT replacement to be able to handle like 1345 revisions in the future and
Yeah.
that kind of thing too. I don't know, that'll be
Yeah.
very
That's
interesting.
that's fascinating to me too. Like I have several presentations on QMSR, and they start and they end with the same slide, and it's the timeline. So it's like, okay, in 1996, the QSR as we know it came out. Shortly thereafter, ISO 13485 came out. Shortly after that, ISO 14971.
Yep.
So on the top track, QSR has remained unchanged.
Yeah.
And then ISO has been updated 2, 3 times. Same thing with 14971. And the each modification of the ISO 13485 moved the content of 1345 more to what FDA's expectations were, but not necessarily the expectations specified in the QSR, the expectations specified in the preamble.
Mm.
So FDA is saying, hey, these are all the things that we thought that QSR was in the first place in 1996, you know? So it's taken all
Realigning that.
of these years for it to all come together. So we're all in one workflow now. But because, like you said, the 1345 goes under review every 3 years, so it could be reviewed every 3 years. You have got a chance of it could come apart way faster than it came together. Because and the FDA did say we are only harmonizing to the 2016 version. We are not, and any subsequent revisions are going to have to go through their own review to see if we're going to adopt them or not as regulation. So FDA very could stay with the current version of ISO 1345 while it keeps moving.
Wow, that's it, it-
Hurts your head a little
that,
bit,
that
doesn't
that
it?
that that hurts my brain a little bit to think about.
Yep.
It's like it. I have been seeing a trend. I'm sure you have as well, of like just de-harmonizing regulatory requirements in
Yep.
general. Like we, for a while there, we are all going to what the MD SAP, like kind of trying to harmonize, but now it's Brexit and other things. And even like in my world where I've seen a lot of like AI and medical devices, SAMD, each jurisdiction has their own requirements of what's a class 1, 2, 3 definition and what types of labeling transparency on AI bias on the medical device do you need to put in there? And it's just like it's becoming so much more of a complex matrix now. I don't know if you have the same opinion, but
Yeah. Well, I just think it's ironic because there has been so much talk for the last decade, especially on global harmonization. Um, and but then regular medical device harmonization is one thing, but then there's this political upheaval and that is affecting, harmonization. That so again, as fast as long as it took for us to almost come together, it just disintegrated.
yeah,
You've got Brexit, you've got Swissix, you know what I'm trying to,
swags. Yeah, yeah,
yeah, exactly.
yeah.
Switzerland, they're out. Um, there's been talk that is Turkey gonna, recognize it or not? Um, what are some of the other big areas? Oh, yeah, just are people even going to get a MDRCE mark? Everybody's kind of holding their breath on what's going to really happen there. So yeah,
I know it's been. I've actually. So I know recently the FDA stated that they are starting to use AI as part of like pre-market submissions a little bit. And I've actually been in talks with notified bodies, and I know notified bodies, some are and some are about to do the same. So I'm interested to see like if that helps or hurts the MDR um, adoption.
if the
'Cause
notified bodies
like
start
I
using it.
think on some ways it could help. And some, it could, you could, if you're a manufacturer using the same AI tools to see how ready you are as the notified bodies are that are checking you using those AI tools, then, you can have a higher likelihood of success. Because right now, a pretty high percentage of them, their tech files are getting pushed back and notified bodies are getting frustrated with
Mhm.
it. But on the same time, if you're, if all those AI platforms are finding more things, then it could add time potentially to
Right.
submit in the first place. So I don't know. I'm very interested to see how that how that FDA's announcement and notified body work, where goes from there.
Well, I'll tell you this, and this was like, I think last year, um, and the FDA had not made an announcement about this, but they've been using AI for well over a year, and a little bit on a combination of the pre-market and the post-market side. So, I had a, a person that came to me that was the, the US agent for several different companies overseas that were located all in the same geography region, but they were not related. Um, all that they shared, in theory, was that they had the same US agent, to communicate with them.
Hmm.
Um, so they all had 510Ks for gloves that were issued in like the 90s.
Okay.
And then all of a sudden, all four get a rescission letter or a notice of rescission from the FDA. Now, rescission means that they're going to revoke your 510K. So
Yeah, that's
all
some
four
difference.
get this letter, and he's like, how did this happen? What's going on? um and then we dig a little bit. Turns out all four use the same regulatory agency in their area, or consulting in their area.
Okay.
Either they or the consultants at this point. I think it was the consultants, false, or the lab that they use, because all four also use the same lab. Turns out all four had the exact same test results in their 510Ks. Now, this
Oh
is
my
from the
God.
90s. So how would the FDA know that unless they had put it through, like every 510K had been scanned in and turned into a
Yeah,
readable?
there's no one manually reviewing 1990s 510Ks for similarity of data. There's no way.
Yeah, exactly. And
That's
then on the other side of that, I have a colleague that was working on, um, four different 510Ks but she was working on four different for the same person. They
okay.
were they were using a lot of the same data, but he's thinking it's like his own data because he paid a lot of money and it was for biocompatibility. And it was just kind of four different indications. And the FDA um, sent them NSE, if you will, like and just said this data in all four of these is too similar to biocompatibility in totally separate, disparate submissions that aren't his.
Hmm.
So his lab had reused data and basically that they had used for other people. And so basically all of this
It's
guys,
not legitimate.
yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, so that's like why when the FDA came out with some recommendations, like especially in technical areas like biocompatibility, that you need to get an independent expert of the lab to verify that the data you're getting actually makes sense for your device. But there's no way for you to have visibility to, okay, even if it makes sense, you don't know if it's been reused.
Oh yeah. How would you know that? Yeah.
Yeah,
There's no way.
exactly.
But at least you
Exactly.
could try to, I mean, that would be tough for a manufacturer, but it's still good that the FDA is finding that out. I mean, that's still good for the industry to know when that kind of situation is happening. But
Right.
that would be tough for how would a consultant or a manufacturer know that? Unless even if you audited that lab, there's still no guarantee you would know that. I mean, you can't, it's hard to audit, those kind of like activities out, like
Mhm.
I don't know. That's but it's interesting to see. We'll see all those different use cases and where it's going. Well, I know, like we talked about, poor audit experiences and challenges and how we think we should. I feel like there's some good auditing practices and things out there too. And do you mind? Are there any good expectations or things that you would recommend? out there? I think I have a couple. 'Cause I like to bring some good positive examples in addition to saying what or
Is your, you mean like best practices for audit management?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, because that makes audit management makes such a big deal in that outcome of the audit, not only in terms of non-conformances or not, but in credibility with the auditor as well. Um,
yeah.
and hopefully if you're in a functional company, it also builds credibility and trust within your quality team for a well-managed audit, that or in your quality team, not within, but like manufacturing, some of those other areas, when they see that they have a partner, their partner, they're going to have to answer the questions, but their quality partner can kind of help interpret the questions or maybe
Yeah.
pull up their procedure, and so I think that collaboration is really important. Practice is really important. That's what internal audits are, is both practice for external audits, but also a way where you can be in charge of your own like mess. So like in the South, you don't just tell people about your family business and what's going on. It's
Yeah.
like we keep that inside the fence. And so the internal audits are a way to do that, you know, and to where it doesn't have to get all messy in public.
That's kind of like so, the Ryden solution is currently analyzing regulatory requirements against your QMS documents, your design history file, those and technical file documents. But we are going to be releasing a feature on records assessment too. So we'll be,
Mhm.
in the background assessing did your records actually follow your own specific company procedural requirements, and did you follow GDP as
Oh,
well?
that's fun.
And it's like
Can you can
highlighting
you spell GDP?
exactly. I don't know, you'd be surprised. I mean, I'm sure
I know.
you've seen horror stories. Um, so it's like I don't know. I just think the idea of having like a management review in a dashboard rather than 100-page slide deck
Hmm.
that's like analyzing the records in the background and then highlighting, all right, 93% of the time, your complaint records are compliant. You're filling them out in a timely manner. You're referencing CAPAs properly or not, or you're opening CAPAs properly or not. And then like you could fine tune the internal audit to see where that 7% gap is and if you want to improve it or not. I don't know. It's just like
Hmm.
I just think that's such a
It's the
cool,
vision.
cool that's the vision there.
Yeah. But in the interim, once you get to that, state of utopia, I think, the idea is that, me and you can partner to help customers in that way. So that,
100%.
yeah, so that you
100%.
still get an AI solution, but you get like a actual person as well with extensive background to kind of look at the more technical side of those things.
The AI
Um,
will highlight where you should focus your efforts. The
mhm.
consultant is really the one that drives the
Yep.
improvement from there, right? It's like it's a great when utilized properly, it's a great marriage.
Yep. Do you think notified bodies are going to start on the audit side by scanning, like, okay, just upload all of your quality management system procedures into a tool like Ryden, and they're going to just come in with this laundry list of things that they already think that you are non-compliant on because your procedure didn't say, let's say, uh, specifically talk about Health Canada in your management review.
I
Even
do.
if you don't sell to,
Well,
even if nothing happened in Canada.
yes. Um, I do believe notified bodies are going that direction. Yes.
Mhm.
I've talked to a few, and some of them are actively going that direction. Some of them
Right,
are actually using some tools like that already.
right. And
The
if,
the
I'm sorry.
concept of like you really need to make sure that the system is fine-tuned and not flagging Health Canada issues when you don't sell to Canada. So that's like, for Ryden at least, like we work with manufacturers and the consultant partners that work with the manufacturers to make sure that we're telling the program, all right, you're selling, which countries are you selling into? What types of medical devices do you have? Do you sell sterilizable things or not? Do you sell reusable
Mhm.
things or not? Do you sell implantables or not? So it's like so it'll just ignore unapplicable things, so you aren't having to filter through the noise yourself afterwards.
Right.
It's like really just
Right.
prioritize, and then even from there, the outputs you'll prioritize as like these are the ones that are classified as high versus lower priority to really like focus your efforts.
Yep. So, kind of going back to an example of where I think that MDR went wrong, is that, the MDR was already kind of, in the works, being discussed and drafted when the PIP breast implant scandal came out.
Yeah.
And that really just accelerated MDR into outer space in terms of the requirements and the
Yes.
ridiculousness and whatnot. But if you look at what happened, is that they had falsified data in their technical file. They had, and they didn't fully do any retesting on biocompatibility or um, performance. And they had actually switched their material to a material that wasn't in their technical file and they didn't have data for. So their technical file, they kind of lied. Then what happened is when they started having breast implant, I don't know what do you call them, explosions, leaks, started leaking, like essentially all over the world where they were selling.
Yeah.
The notified body came in to not the notified body, the competent authority over that not notified body actually came in themselves and did an audit of the facility. And what they did was they went around on the floor, just like you and I were talking about earlier. They
Yeah.
wrote down what they saw, particularly the materials and the processing parameters and aids and whatnot. And they went back to the technical file and said, this material that you have at the press is not the material that you described here. And so to me, all MDR did was add more and more paperwork and not more and more value or safety. Because if you have a company that lacks integrity, that will already lie and falsify under the MDD, where it was a much lower burden in terms of paper that you had to turn in, and you turn it into an exercise that's 5 to 10 times more paper, more stringent, more expensive,
Yes.
how have you not created something where more and more people are going to lie and falsify? You
Oh,
can't
100%.
legislate integrity, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I actually like Underwriters Laboratories in the US.
Hmm.
You get like electrical safety components on a PCB, and they come inspect you to make sure that your PCB, like they go right to the floor. Like
Oh,
they will just
do not
like,
steps, pass go.
they just go and they're like, all right, this capacitor for this printed circuit board, you said it was going to be this rating from this supplier. Is it still? And they'll like,
Hmm.
they won't give you much of a notice. They'll just show up like the day before or like that morning and message you. And so you don't have time to swap out boxes on the production floor or something like that.
Hmm.
So it's like that's the kind of approach I hope that we go towards in the future. And specifically, like let's use our internal audit program to try to flush out those things ourselves, or the supplier
Right,
audit program to flush out those things ourselves, and then let all the paperwork stuff to be done by like AI or something.
right.
I don't know.
Yep.
That's what I'm hoping.
Okay. So, Adam, do you have any kind of final thoughts, or is that a good thought to kind of wrap up everything that we've been talking about here today?
Let's see. No, I think I have one additional thought that I'm really excited to keep discussions going with the industry, including yourself, Michelle, which is like the additional longer term vision of Ryden around this concept of of lean and doing what's appropriate for you without doing unnecessary paperwork. Like in the future, we are going to be in Ryden adding a feature where we're not only analyzing your QMS, your design control documents, et cetera, for compliance gaps, or if your records follow your procedures, but we will also be adding flags saying where you're having over engineering your processes. So if we can analyze, 200, 400 different medical device manufacturers' processes, and then we could flag, hey, in your non-conforming materials process, you require this. No one else in the industry is doing that. Like,
Yeah.
why are you doing that? Like,
Or or you have 900 procedures that go around just design control and risk management.
exactly. Like,
Why?
do you know that the industry average for your size company for the types of devices you have, that average is only 3? And this is generally the topics they cover. I'm like extremely excited for Ryden. I mean,
Yeah.
in the future to go towards that, and
Yeah. And I think that's where our passion
that
projects cross over.
100%. So I'm looking forward to that.
Exactly where I started as well. So, well, thank you for the time to join me today, Adam. I had fun with the conversation, and I'm sure we'll be talking with you soon.
Likewise, thank you very much.